Hey nerds, we are going to do a review and breakdown of Star Wars Skeleton Crew Episode 8, starting now. Welcome back to the Nerd Social. I am Colin. So, Episode 8 is the finale of hopefully this first season of Skeleton Crew. The title of it is The Real Good Guys. It is written by Christopher Ford and Jon Watts, and it is directed by Jon Watts. Spoiler-free logline of this episode is a journey filled with adventure comes to a surprising end. So my spoiler-free thoughts on this final episode of Skeleton Crew is I think they stuck the landing. It was a really solid ending to a pretty good show overall. I think that it built momentum from the first episode on. There were some little lags here and there, but it still engaged me well enough toward the end of this series. And I really enjoyed that we had heroes that were very brave and also that were very engaging and not very annoying. So, as I mentioned in previous reviews, it's very hard to have kids in these series because they can be very lovable or they can be very annoying. And they were very good to have a balance between that in this series. In this episode, the parents have a bigger role, but the kids really do make the show. They really are the standouts. All the kids in general did have their moments in this last episode, which was really good to highlight because they've been on a journey and it's been very amazing. Jod's origins were revealed in this episode, but whether or not they're true, we don't really know because he is a scoundrel and he continues to be a scoundrel in this episode. There's nothing that changes here. I do compare him a little bit with Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean, but a little bit more menacing than what Jack was. Jack was much more playful. Jod is definitely not playful in this series. I am curious to figure out what he's going to be like in the future, what's going to happen with him, and along with the kids as well. Speaking of that, I hope that there is another season of Skeleton Crew. There needs to be some sort of time jump because the kids are going to keep growing. The kids that are in this series, hopefully they get to come back and they're maybe in their late teens, early 20s. In terms of rating, I would give this episode a 8 out of 10, which is a road trip. It's a solid conclusion to a surprisingly good show. And in terms of the overall series, I will also give it an 8 out of 10. I think that there's nothing groundbreaking with this episode. There's some nice pieces of nostalgia here and there that identifies it with Star Wars, which is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to have a lot of this for kids, but at the same time, it's grown up quite a bit. In terms of rewatch value, I probably wouldn't revisit that. I may revisit it one night to see the whole thing through. But honestly, I think that with a lot of the Star Wars shows and also all the Disney Plus shows, there's really not much that I would want to revisit. I think the only thing that I've revisited actually was the Jedi episode from The Mandalorian and Luke Skywalker coming in at the end of Mandalorian Season 2. Those are the only things that I've really rewatched. But at the same time, I don't see a lot of rewatch value to this show. So those are my spoiler-free thoughts. If you like to comment on Star Wars Skeleton Crew and other content we put out there, please like, share, and subscribe for more. We really appreciate your support, and we really appreciate all of those that follow us on all of our social media platforms. So without further ado, spoilers ahead for Star Wars Skeleton Crew, Episode 8. We start off with the ending of episode 7 where Jod was bringing out the lightsaber and there was going to be some conflict, some menace. But at the beginning of this episode, he slowly takes it away because the parents and also the kids complied and followed through on his wishes. So there was no need to have any more conflict or violence. We established that Jod is a very flawed character, but there's a layer to him where he is menacing to a degree. He's not going to cross lines. He would cross lines if pushed to, but I think that he has a sense in the room that these individuals are not worth it, they're harmless, and also that they might need him for manual labor in the future. So I don't want to say that Jod is a very redeeming character. He might be totally lost because of the fact that he had a very traumatic childhood, and also throughout the lives he has had to fight in order to survive. So he's probably more of a victim of circumstance than a cold-blooded killer. We see here that Fern is reunited with her mother, and basically her mother, Farah, and Fern takes Jod down to see the supervisor. And in the last episode, I was speculating who would be the supervisor. And it turned out that the supervisor was just an AI robot that's running at Aten, which I thought was a bit disappointing that there was no figurehead, that it was just an AI presence. But being that it's Star Wars and being that we're in a technology age, it's not too surprising that it ended up being a bot. Online, people had reminded me of it being like Hal from 2001 Space Odyssey. There's definitely some resemblance to that. Jod then quickly disables the AI droid and then was able to get his pirate friends down to Atatin so that they can pillage all of the mints and get all of the credits from the population. And also they are trying to again force the Atatin people to manual labor so that they can get all the credits. It basically established a pirate colony there, and that's his end goal right here. Of course, he just keeps Farah and Fern hostage while the other individuals were able to go back to their homes without much resistance, and under the supervision of droids who are overseeing everything that they're doing, KB, Neil, and Wim. So at this point, they are at home trapped and not knowing what's going on. Fern here is trying to find some way to tell her mother that he is a liar, he is a scoundrel, and of course the threat of it is always there, that if they don't comply, that something bad's going to happen. After the supervisor was destroyed by Jod, the droids ended up shutting down, and all of the city lights and all the infrastructure ended up being shut down as well. And so this gives an opportunity for the pirate ship to descend into Atatin. Wim was able to find Neil and KB, as they were able to use these speeder bikes along with Wim's father to rescue Fern. And you can see here that this is the start of the kids' adventure. Wim's father is still very surprised as to what's going on and tries to comply and basically believes Jod's crap and lies. But you can see that Wim has a very strong personality, and I think that's forged from all the adventures that he had. He did mention also that in the galaxy, they are really bad people, and there's a lot of big things that happen, and there's a lot of fear involved. But I think that he was able to acknowledge that there are also some good people, like him, like the New Republic, that are able to help, and that the galaxy is very complex. It's not just full of bad people. And I think that he's able to get out of his sheltered life. And yes, it had a little bit of tough love from Jod to try to get it out of him. But a lot of times, I think young people have to understand that tough love is necessary at times to get the best out of the potential of the children. And I think that without that push from Jod in earlier episodes, I don't think Wim would have this journey at the end where he feels very heroic and he feels as though there's an obligation to save Fern. He would never had that if he didn't experience all the dark times that he had being captured by Jod. Here was a very good stalling tactic where he told Jod they have a secret treasure. Like I said, Wim has really grown up since the time in which he was captured in the last episode. And I think that part of it is also him seeing that his father was still very timid about the situation, and Wim just thinking of it as secondhand, and also understanding that Jod is a scoundrel and you shouldn't believe him. So that gave him a lot of confidence to become more of a leader Neil also has a bigger role as well. He was responsible for providing cover fire for the Onyx Cinder. Of course, he does it in his own way. He does push the boundaries, but it is still very authentic. It is not a case where he becomes like a whiz kid or he becomes like this a great general. No, he is still very timid, naive, ordinary, but just like what they did back in the first episode where he was imagining himself being a Jedi, you can tell that he's taking these small steps to become more than what he is. It's a very interesting growth that Neil has had throughout, because you saw back in episode 4 that he was, again, very timid, didn't want to be at war, wanted to be at peace. But now he realizes that when push comes to shove and his friends are in danger, he is doing everything that he can to try to protect them. And this is a very wonderful scene where he is taking charge, trying to protect his friends. This leads to the barrier being broken up as the pirates start to invade. And also the Onyx Cinder at this point got shot down. And so they had no recourse but to shut down the barrier so that the New Republic can come in with their fighters. And you can see here, this is a nice sequence of the B-Wings and also the X-Wings coming in, swooping into Adanin and basically attacking the pirates, being the pirate busters, as Kim was talking about. This was a very beautiful scene. I wish that there was more of this, but you got a nice aerial combat scene that was happening here, which was really good. Probably cost them a lot of money. That's why they didn't really give a lot of it in this episode. It gives that taste of Star Wars that I think a lot of fans have been craving for, and this was definitely part of it. As you can see here as well with the B-Wings, really great action scene here of them bringing the pirate ship down. And we also see a ship that's very similar to Tantive 4 from A New Hope. So there's a lot of callbacks to A New Hope that's in this episode as well. There was also another scene of Wim playing with toys, reminiscent of Spaceballs, and he called one of the toys Princess Fern. So you get definitely some allusions to Leia, but also you can tell that Fern had a very Han Solo type jacket as well. So there's a lot of those types of callbacks and Easter eggs that are littered throughout Skeleton Crew that makes it very Star Warsy. So that's what I think keeps people's engagement in the show. And I think that on top of it, the kids, as I said before, they're not annoying. There's definitely a journey that they go through, being afraid, being in danger, but also in this episode, really becoming more of themselves and leading the charge against the pirates. And this is a nice scene here that Wim, in the beginning, you saw him fumbling with the lightsaber. This is back in episode 5, I believe. And now he has full confidence of wielding a lightsaber. And that's a really great area of growth and evolution of his character. Fern has always been very smart throughout, but again, she's not annoying. It could be easily written to be very annoying, but she has that nice balance of leadership skills, but also the vulnerability that's there for everyone to see. And the leadership skills really are shown out here in this episode for her and protecting her mother from danger. And then as the ship was falling down, we see that Jod is left with the realization that he's probably going to be captured. And I think that it's very interesting for him to reveal what had happened to him after Order 66, where he was under some protection from a Jedi who was already down in the dumps, defeated. And so I think a lot of that Jedi's trauma went towards Jod. And so throughout his life, he had to really fight to survive. And we really don't know what happened to him at the end. They really left it very open-ended. As the New Republic has come in, I assume that he's going to be captured and jailed, but it doesn't really give a definitive thing as to what's going to happen to him. And I think this is where a new season would be very cool to have if we have a time jump, because at the very end, before they cut to black, was Wim looking at the X-Wings up there and just having this dream of becoming part of the New Republic. Hopefully that leads to more shows from this series. The closing credits was very interesting because it shows a lot of their adventures, but it also shows some stuff from the Old Republic. There's some scenes that you may recognize or may not recognize. Maybe that they're gonna go into a prequel area. Who knows if they want to explore that or not? Or maybe they're just telling a story of how Ad-Adin became Ad-Adin. I'm not really sure, but it was a nice closing credit. I wish there was a post-credit scene, but there wasn't. But overall, I would say it's a very good ending, and hopefully, because of what happened, I think that there could be a season 2. Now, there's rumors that there is going to be season 2 for Ahsoka because of the recasting of Ray Stevenson's character. This might be down the pipeline, depending on, again, money and ratings. Reception has been pretty good for Skeleton Crew, so it might lend itself to some more storytelling if the same creative team comes back to do this series. So those are my thoughts on Star Wars Skeleton Crew Episode 8. Tell us what you have to say about this episode and about the series overall by commenting down below. Like, share, subscribe for more content like this, and we will see you in the next video. All right, take care, everybody.